Hello, I'm back to do another small VR. This one, I forgot who actually is the originator of this particular VR. Um, but I will link it in the bottom of the comments there. But it's basically called the True Self Journey. I liked it. They just gave prompts, no descriptions, but by reading them, you kind of figure out what it is that they're talking about. And so, the first one, I'll go ahead and get started, is the Misfit Self. And I already had the deck sitting here. And when I thought of this deck, when I thought of that prompt, the deck that, move my camera up some, that came to mind was the Fifth Spirit Tarot. I got this deck. I don't know where I saw this deck, but I got it, and I like the deck actually. It's by Charlie Claire Burgess. She her pronouns are they them. It says here that a queer plus exclusive deck for world beyond binaries. I go by she her, but I still do appreciate that someone took the time out to curate a deck for the queer community, and I support it. So I'll go through a few of the cards. I love this card. One, if you know anything about me, I love tattoos. I have a lot of tattoos, and I love herbs, plants, and I adore the moon. So if you know anything about me, this here is my whole being. Well, this card would resonate with me out this deck. I love the artwork. I love the hierophant on this one. This chariot has the skates versus the motorcycle. I noticed somebody said they were tired of seeing the chariot cars with the motorcycles. I love this image because I have my son has a dog, but she's a family dog, and we love her so much. I love this hermit card. It's a really nice deck. This would resonate with me a lot as well. And I appreciate this death card is amazing. I appreciate that this deck was made to represent those who have little to no representation. The reason why I appreciate it is because I am a melanated woman. I am a black woman in America. I'll just say that. I don't want to get too in detail, but those that know. So to be inclusive and to see representation really, to be included, I'm sorry, and to see representation really matters. And so I really appreciate the time that she put into this deck. I mean, the time that they, put into this deck. I'm glad to have purchased it and brought it along into my collection. I have not used it, as you can see, it's still in order. I don't do readings for people except those close to me, and I can count them on one hand. So I don't offer personal readings, or I don't read for strangers, or I don't do collectives and all that good stuff. I don't do that. Not any shade to anyone that does. I just don't. So most of my decks are going to be in order. Some of them are not going to be used. Some of them are just for me to enjoy the artwork and to appreciate the creator's creativity. So, but the reason why I resonated with this because I've always been a misfit all my life, and so I don't fit into society's standards of what a melanated black woman should look like or be like in America, and this Southeast America. So this deck really resonates for that prompt. The next prompt is the Freedom Seeking Self. I chose the Pastoral Tarot, which is one of my newer decks. I showed this deck yesterday when I did a few or maybe a few, I don't know. The reason why is because I am from the north. I'm from Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland. Born and raised, but majority of been down the south my life, the rural south. I'm a southern girl, and I will always say that because I was raised here and I still live here. And this deck really speaks to, sorry, really speaks to the freedom, the freeing of of the rural and vast South. If you live anywhere in the South, you see a lot of this landscape. A lot of these pictures, these images, really do speak to the Southern girl in me. Another reason why I got this deck, and I said yesterday, is because I was born in the South. I have a lot of Southern values. Not born in the South, I was raised in the South for the majority of my life. I'm almost 40, so I've been in the South over 30 years. So the majority of my life, and will continue to. And I appreciate the South. For lack of better words, now I'm gonna leave that as open as I can because I don't want to make, there's so many people who can probably say, what do you mean you appreciate the South and blah blah blah. Not in the way you may think, but the nature, the scenery. I live currently in a very rural area. I built my home in a very rural area, and I'm glad I did. I do have neighbors. However, I live 30 to 45 minutes from the actual city. So this deck is a deck that I look to when it comes to seeking some type of freedom, or just when I pull this deck and I flip through it, the main thing that comes to mind is how free this deck is. The images, the scenery, the landscape on this deck, even down to the colors that are used in this deck. The pastel, well, not really the pastel, but that purple, and even the flowering, all of that speaks to freedom, being free. If you know anything about when it comes to flowers, certain ones anyway, that's another subject for another day. I can talk about plants and stuff all day long. I actually watered a few plants this morning before I went to work. The next deck is the Inner Guidance Self. That deck for me is going to be this deck. This deck is what I would use for myself. Have I used this deck on anyone else? No. Will I? Probably not. I have a love for herbs and plants. So this will always be the deck that I use when I want to consult with myself. Not my shadow self, just myself. If I have questions, I am an introvert. I am an overthinker. So sometimes, if I'm not careful, I can think myself into a rut. So it helps to be able to have something that takes me out of me and allows me to see things from a larger perspective. Sometimes I have to repot plants or buy plants. I'm actually going to be planting some sunflowers in my yard in the next few weeks. And doing those type of activities helps me discover things about myself. Watering my indoor plants, tending to them helps me discover a lot about myself. When I first got plants, what I did discover about myself is that I wanted low maintenance plants. This is beautiful. But even though they were low maintenance, I overindulged. So I end up watering them too much, or not watering them at all. So I didn't have a medium. So I did lose a lot of plants in the meantime. But as I grew and learned and, healed myself, I realized that I did that in life. I either gave too much or none at all. Like I didn't have a medium. And my plants helped me to develop a medium, helped me to pay attention to the cues around me, helped me to quote unquote read the room. And there are situations in every area of my life, even in my parenting, where I'm not doing too much to where I am overbearing, but I'm not, you know, I'm kind of in the middle where I'm doing just enough. So this deck is the deck that I use to give myself inner guidance when it comes to myself, to me. The next one is the Wild Unknown Self. And the deck that I chose for that is the Bonfire Tarot. I saw this on at blackgirlsread.com, at blackgirlsread. I'll tag her below. She do a lot of walkthroughs, and I seen this on one of her walkthroughs. This is by Gabby Angus West. When I was reading through the guidebook, this is actually going to be one of my study books as well. More so the artwork. But when I was reading through the book, what really grabbed me was that she mentioned tattoo and the tarot. And if you heard me earlier, I'm full of tattoos and I'm not yet done. I use my body as a canvas. So when you see my tattoos, all of my tattoos have a special meaning. There's not a tattoo on my body that does not relate to any stage of my life of who I am, who I was, who I'm going to be, so forth. So this deck resonates with the wild unknown self. When people see me, a lot of people don't know what to expect from me. They see a young black melanated woman with locks and tattoos, piercings, but she also has, a bag of books and journals, and she's writing and she's drinking her coffee, and she's not loud, she's not bothered by anyone. She's not bothering anyone. You'll see me in the bookstore to myself, by myself. I am, like I said, an introvert. So when you do see me, I'm always almost alone. And I like it that way. So this deck, the artwork really just grabbed me because, like I said, I love tattoos, and these pictures remind me of tattoos. So when I got the deck, I wasn't too sure about it until I was laying in the bed one night and I came and got it, and I said, I want to spend some time with it. And I started reading through and flipping through, and I was like, okay, now I see why I got this deck. So yeah, this deck will probably be the deck that I use to discover what my next tattoo will be. If I really need that tattoo, why I'm getting that tattoo, and where to get that tattoo. So yeah. The next one is the Wise Woman Self. That deck is going to be my baby, my Hoodoo Tarot deck. This is, I think, my first tarot deck. I do use this on those that I do readings for, that are, not, I'm talking about the people that I do readings for. It's about like maybe 5 that I do readings for. But I am from the South. My family's from the South. And I resonate with this deck a lot. It is one of my study decks as well. I am very much into hoodoo. I actually am proud of the Black American Southern Black American heritage that was derived even through the midst of the trials, that a lot of my ancestors had to endure. So I do take a lot of pride in this deck, very much so. I do not play with this deck. You're not going to find me using this deck with just anyone. This deck will always remain a part of me and with me, and I will pass it down. So yeah, this is the Wise Woman Self deck. This is the deck that I will come to when I want my, when I say, okay, Grandma, I need some guidance, because my grandmother is one of my ancestors. She's my great grandmother, but I call her my grandma. The guidebook is very, very knowledgeable, full of so much information. Like I said, it is one of my one of my study. Okay, you know what I'm trying to say. And I enjoy it because not only that, I learn a lot from this deck. As I do with all of my decks. That's why I have them. The next one is the Deep Learning Self. This deck is going to be, hold on a minute, the Black Tarot. Love this deck, guys. And I bet you're saying, why is that the Deep Learning Self? Well, I don't want to make this a historical thing, but I am, as you can tell, a melanated black woman in America. And if you know anything about American history, then you don't need an explanation. This deck is one of the decks that I got because I appreciate having, being able to support creators that look like me, but also being able to connect with who I am. So much of who we are have been lost. So a lot of us are in the process of finding out and discovering, who we are, our lineage, our heritage. And, believe it or not, a lot of these decks done by many black creators, those with the sincerity that do it, the great intentions, really do help. This is a deck that is for me. If I use it, it would be for those close to me when I use it. I have not used it yet. As you can see, it's still in order. This is also another one of my decks that I will be taking the time to study, not just use it for the sake of using it. It comes with a great, beautiful guidebook. As you can see, I have done a good bit of looking over through it. I have not gotten to back to it, but I have been studying it, and it has flowers and chakras and all that great stuff that is good to know. You have questions to ask. I like to journal, so this really helps. So, like I said, there's much more to these decks than just having the cards to read. You can learn so much about yourself, if that's what you want to do. But yeah, this is the deck about the Deep Learning Self, because the goal is to use this deck as I learn more about who I am. And that leads to the next question. I really hate that I did that, but it is okay. It's not the end of the world. It leads me to the next prompt, which is the reclaimed self. So as I'm learning about my deeper self, that's helping me reclaim who I am. All right. And the deck that helps with that, it's a very it's one of those those type of decks. It is the Dust to Onyx deck, another melanated deck, which I love. This deck I don't use on anybody. This is solely for me. That's why it's the travel size. This I can use for many different things. It's not in order because I have used it. There is bigger versions, but I, opted in for the smaller versions. This deck reminds me of like my ancestral work. Something similar to like the Hoodoo Tarot, like working with my ancestors. Those that are known and unknown. So, flowing through this deck gives me a sense of empowerment. I don't know how to explain it, but pulling from this deck, and I read this deck intuitively. I used to be afraid of this deck because I felt like it saw right through me, which is what it needed to do. But yeah, so this is my deck as far as the reclaimed self. The next deck is going to be the Fully Empowered Self. And this is the deck that I would say, some would say, oh, I think I had a card. No, that's just that one. The Fully Empowered Self. So this deck is more so of, when I flip through this deck, when I look at this deck, I feel beautiful. I feel powerful. I feel strengthened. And it's the Black Film Tarot by Letitia Shelton. When I first got this deck, I actually was a little afraid to get this deck because the representation made me feel like I was imposing on something that wasn't supposed to be for me, but I was reassured that it was okay because I'm not a bigger woman, so I didn't want to be like, oh, let me jump in and grab this, that's another conversation for another day. But I wanted to support her as a creator, as a melanated creator. And I love the guidebook with everything in my soul. I love the colors. I love the layout. When I was in school, I did everything with highlighters, markers, different color pen. Even now, if I got show you my guys' pen and marker collection one day, but I still to this day, and I'm not talking about cheap markers and pens. I spend money because I learn in color. So when I was in school and I took notes in color because it helped me retain the information. So when I saw her guidebook, it took me back and it was like, oh wow, she took so much, she put a lot into making that guidebook fun, making it alive, I like this deck. I have not used this deck. This is not a deck I would use with anyone. I would have to really, even with the people that I read for, it's maybe two of them that I would use this deck for. But when I saw this card immediately, I was reassured that it was okay that I invested in this deck. But look at the colors. Look at the back of the deck. Look at this deck, guys. And I think it's limited because she only had like 1,000 copies. I think I was 574 of 1,000 copies. And she's on Etsy. I appreciate the hard work she put into this. You can tell she enjoyed this deck. I enjoy flipping through it. Sometimes I'll just pick up a deck and flip through it before I go to sleep and just marvel in the imagery and the pictures, because that's pretty much what I love about a lot of the decks that I have is the imagery, the creators' work. Like it's like I get to look into their brain and be like, wow, like, how did you do this? Like, what gave you this image? She do have the suits and colors, which I love. There are no male representation, and I'm okay with that because she intended this to represent her and those like her, and that's appreciative, and I support it. The card stock is very beautiful, guys. I will not shuffle this deck because, like I said, it's going to stay in order. I have not used it. Not for readings. It's too precious. A lot of my decks are precious to me, guys. So, maybe I'm being selfish with them. I don't know. But a lot of my decks are very precious to me. So, a lot of times I don't have the desire to pull anyone's energy into them. So they sit here in my little space here that I have, that I've created for myself. And I enjoy, the creator and sharing their work. I mean, one day I may, because who knows, but no time soon. But anyways, beautiful deck. Look at that. Oh, I love it. So yeah, this is the true self journey. Like I said, I'll tag who originated this, because I cannot remember her name. I need some extra cards that she put in there. So yeah, this is the Black Film Tarot. So yeah, that is my true self journey, guys. I will come back later and post another VR. I enjoy doing the VRs and seeing everybody else's VRs. It's very what's the word I'm looking for? Soothing. I guess that's the word. But thank you guys for watching and have a good day. Peace.